Today is April 25th, 2025. My name is Simona. I'm an 8th grade student at Cultural Hebrew Academy of Connecticut. I will be interviewing my grandfather about his life and legacy. This interview is being recorded for the Oral History Collection for the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County's archives, as well as our family archives. Let's start with you telling me your full name.
Okay, my name is Raphael Abada.
Do you know who you were named after?
Yes, my mother had a dream. We had, in Baghdad, we had a rabbi by the name of Raphael, and he died shortly before I was born. I came in after 5 girls, so it was an event, but she thought she might have another girl. But when she had a dream about this rabbi, she knew she's going to have a boy, and she's going to get him Raphael, and that's what happened.
Do you have a Hebrew name?
Raphael.
We've been learning about immigration of Jews to the U.S. and other places. What was your story?
Okay. My family immigrated from Baghdad, Iraq, in 1951. I was just a baby, 18 months old. We went to Israel as refugees, part of about close to 1 million refugees from other Arab countries altogether. Iraq or Baghdad was the largest amount of Jews that immigrated, about 200,000 in one lump sum. Again, we were refugees. I remember we lived in tents. And 1951 was a terrible, terrible winter in Israel. And the tent fell on us. I actually remember that event. It was scary. In the middle of a rainstorm and wind, and the tent fell on us, and they evacuated us to, now I know it's a school. It was a one shack room. I remember seeing the ceiling was dripping, water coming out of the ceiling, and it was a school apparently.
How long were you in tents for?
Not too long. Later on, there was something called in Israel called Ma'abarot. The name of Ma'abara is intermediate kind of thing, and they built all sort of shacks from wood and what have you, and that's what they put together. Family was very wealthy in Baghdad, and we had to leave everything behind. The house, the furniture, everything. Imagine you're going to visit a relative and you're allowed to pack a bag. Your parents say, we don't have room in the car. Just pack one bag with the stuff that you must have for a few days. And when you're knowing that you have these and that's it, you're not coming back home. With all your memory, your rock collections, or your CDs, your favorite books, everything. You can't go back to it. It's gone. Someone else took it. There was that same storm. Really was. See, from everything in life, something good comes out. The storm had destroyed some shacks that had corrugated roof, and my father took that, and he was goldsmith and by a very an artist pretty much, and he took the corrugated roof and banged it and made menorahs. It was Hanukkah time, and he was selling menorah, and for that he re-established the business that he had in Baghdad. So instead of working with gold and silver, he worked with copper, which is, but up until then, he had a government job. They gave him a hammer and a big rock, and he was supposed to hit the big rock to make smaller rocks to build roads.
Before they immigrated, did they talk about what life was like before they left? Do you have any stories about Jewish life there?
Oh yes, plenty. Jews in the 1940s, after World War I, rather, Jews had, Baghdad had, the population of Baghdad was 25% was Jewish. So a lot of Jewish people there. They contributed a lot to the society. They started the theaters, literature, hospitals, social services, all started with the Jews. They started communities. Um, Came World War II, and the king then sympathized Hitler, and of course Hitler's plans was to conquer the Middle East. Thankfully, it did happen. He couldn't. And at that time, in 1942 or 46, I don't remember. It was on Shavuot, which is coming in soon. Something that was called Farhud in Baghdad. Farhud was a big mayhem similar to October 7th. The Arab population was given the okay by the government to go destroy Jewish homes, Jewish businesses, kill. A few hundred Jews were killed at the time, and it was total mayhem. My family was relatively escaped okay. My father had money, so he paid off some of his neighbors. Funny story, my uncle took a pot and a stick, and he went on the roof, and he was hitting it like this, so the Arab thought it's a machine gun, and they ran away. So a lot of these stories you hear. And life was good. From what they tell me, life was good. They had clubs, they had synagogues, they had the Talmud Bavli came out from there. Iraq or Babylon was the center of Judaism of the world until Israel was established again. It was center, everything went through that. And there was constantly communication between Israel and Jerusalem. So when the Jews went back to Jerusalem, they rebuilt the second temple, which stood 400 years, and then they were exiled again to Rome. You're learning a little more history, not just about Baghdad, which is okay. That doesn't hurt.
Can you tell me anything else that you remember about your immigration to Israel? Do you remember who left?
Okay. Jews started leaving Baghdad around 1947, and they weren't allowed to leave. So there was what they call the underground there. People learned Hebrew, and they were smuggling the people one by one, in groups, to Israel. There was no Israel then. And they went by the way of Iran, mostly. They would go to Iran, and from Iran, they would board planes to go to Israel. We had a big family, and the government, nobody knew what's going to happen, who's going to survive, it was total unknown stuff. So my parents sent the kids with whatever they can. The older kids, older meaning 15, 16, went on their own. The Sochnut or the philanthropies would pay off people smugglers. You pay a boat, someone with a boat, and he will take you through the river, and he makes sure you get into the other side. And there was all sort of systems of passwords and things like that. And they would give them some of the money now, some of the money later, and that's how people went in. So going to Israel, I was my parents, me, my grandmother, and Amalia, your Aunt Amalia. We were both babies then. And that's it. From all the other kids, my parents had 14, but 9 survived. And from all the 9, only 2 of us went with them. And the rest went in, and nobody knew where they are. They were adopted. Ucha was adopted. Shosh, I think, was adopted too. Yaakov and Segi were in different kibbutzim. My mother told me that it took her about 1.5 years to to gather her kids back
Mm.
together. And so Rucha didn't speak Arabic at that point. She only spoke Hebrew, and my mother didn't speak Hebrew. And there's this funny story. Rucha, she took her, and she was home, and she told her, "Ani rotza lishon." It means I want to sleep. But my mother didn't know what that means. So she told her, "Okay, you wait for your brother. He's gonna come in next week, and he'll tell me what you want, and I'll give it to you." So I don't remember a lot of things. I just remember from stories that I heard over the years. But this is how it went.
That's great background. Thank you. Now, do you have any artifacts that you brought?
Artifact. Okay, as I told you, my father was a goldsmith. This is a kiddush cup that he made for me when I got married, and it's all made by hand. He had the ability to take a flat piece of metal. He made his own tools. He had this different mold, and he would sit with a hammer, and in half an hour, he'll have this done. See, it's all handmade, beautiful. Made a lot of nice things. The royalties, the king and government officials, they would come to him to do things. At the time, I remember they were doing picture frames. Photography just came about, and it was anybody with money, anybody important had to have a photograph. And a good photograph had to have a good frame. A good frame had to be made out of gold. And they would come to him and commission him to do that. When people get married, the bride they would supply them all the stuff that they need to have a Jewish home, which is kiddush cup, candlestick, menorah for Hanukkah, things to wash hands, and so on and so forth. And also, they put silverware. I think I have a couple of spoons or forks that my father gave me, stuff that he made. It's cool. My mother had a knife that made out of silver. I remember it was a very sharp knife. It was a silver handle, and the rest of it was metal. And she always worried about it being corrosion. So corrosion, she would clean it and put some olive oil on it to store it and so on.
Now I want to ask you about some questions about your life growing up. So where did you grow up and who did you live with?
I grew up in Israel. First, of course, we were in a tent. Then we had what they call shikun. Shikun is an apartment and a multi-dwelling. And by then, my father started, establishing himself. Eventually, we moved to a place called Bnei Brak, and from there we moved to Petach Tikva. Near Petach Tikva was a nice little moshav, and I loved that place. It was one house on top of a hill, and we had a lot of trees, and the whole area was just orange groves all over. It was very quiet. When we first moved at night, we would hear the coyotes screaming. That was a little scary, actually. That's where we lived. My best years were there, the teenage years. And at 16, I went to an army school. Basically, joined the army at that point a little early. You can call it. I left home at 16, which really wasn't okay. I'm not coming. I'm leaving home. But I was in the army, and after the schooling, I was schooling with the Air Force. Then I went to communication and enlisted. Did 3 years in the army. The 6-Day War just started when I first started, and I was in school still. And they told us, go home. If we need you, we will call you. Be in tune. We'll let you know We don't know how this war gonna go, but it went very well. Israel, did very well in that war, so they didn't call me. But then there was I was stationed in the Sinai Desert, near the border with Egypt, and it was the longest war that Israel ever had. Maybe now it's starting to get longer. They still call it the war of attrition, where the Egyptian used to constantly shell over the Suez Canal, the Israeli thing, and Israel would shell them, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I spent the time there. I almost got killed too, but I survived.
How did you almost get killed?
I tell you the story at a different time. And so after the service, I came into United States for just a tour. My plan was to work for whatever I can do, buy a jalopy, go across the country, visit the national parks, and go back to Israel. But I came in, I found a job that I like in the telecommunications. I stuck with it. I did well, and I couldn't leave the job to go traveling because I was doing too well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Dia, your grandmother, and the rest is history.
How did you meet her?
I met her in Brooklyn College. I used to go hang out in Brooklyn College, so I meet educated people. And that's what happened.
Growing up, did you and your friends do anything for fun? What was Jewish life like? Did you go to shul? Did you have a bar mitzvah? Were there any Jewish holidays you liked?
Okay. Yes, I did have a bar mitzvah. We had normal Jewish life. We did all the holidays. Shabbat, we always have Shabbat dinner together. After that, you could do whatever you want, but Shabbat dinner, we all gathered together. It was always fun to have. And my mother started preparing for Shabbat dinner from Wednesday or Thursday. All the favorite food, some of it you eat now that she taught me how to do, like the kubba and the sambusa and all the goodies and the rice. As far as toys, we did not have toys. When we didn't have to. We had to make our own toys. So I would take a piece of wood, it become a car, a can, and things like that. Later on, at age 15, I bought myself a moped. In Israel, the nickname of it is tustus. And that thing was attached to me. Everywhere I'd go, up the steps with it, down the steps. I was known throughout the whole thing as Rafi Tustus. And we'd go places. There's nothing, but it's not that we didn't go hiking or thing. Just locally, everything was local. Nobody had money to go to do crazy things, so to go to different places. It's different. There were different days than now. And we just hung in throughout the neighborhood together. We made kites. We'd fly a lot of kites. I used to like, we had an empty lot near the house, so almost every night we'd sit there with a little fire. A few of us will have, and the neighbor would scream because of the smoke. They didn't like it. And I had a dog, a few dogs from time to time. They weren't in the house, they were always outside. Was another thing. I made my own scooter with wood and baby carriage wheels. We used to make our own, we call it agala. We'll take a box and attach 4 wheels to it. And we had a mechanism so that you can turn also. And was dangerous. We'd go up a hill somewhere on a road. We sit there and we go with no brakes until we hit something. There was one specific place, there were a grain storage. And there were always, the grain silos, and there were always grain in front of it. And it was a very, very tough hill, like you see a crossway or worse, and it was long. That was our favorite. We'd go, we'd sit there, and we'd crush into the thing. Today you do it, you guaranteed to get killed. But those days in the 50s, early 60s, there was not too many cars in Israel. Not too many cars. You could, go for hours and no cars go by. It's different, of course, today. So was dangerous stuff. We did dangerous stuff. Mm-hmm. We lived at the edge.
Tell me a little bit how you made the decision to come to America.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I had a brother who met an American lady when she was in Israel on a high school tour or something like that, teen tours, and they got married and they moved to here, to New York. And when I finished my service, I worked a little bit in Israel, saved enough money to get a ticket, a one-way ticket, and I had $150 saved cash to spend over here. I came in and I ended up living with my brother for a year or so. And that's it. From there, I moved on. I did odds and end job. I was a messenger. I was a shipping clerk or whatever. And during this time, I drove a taxi also. I had to learn English. I did not speak English. So what I did, I had from my nephew, he was in elementary school, and he had an American history book for maybe 4th grade. So I started reading it. I had it in the cab with me, and I would ask my passengers about different words. I couldn't read a word. I said, "What is this word?" And they would tell me. Remember the word boycott? There was something about grapes boycott. That was in the histories. I remember something, and that word I read it as boyacht, and I didn't access. Some passenger. They were always eager to explain to me the passenger, and I learned 2 things this way. I learned English, and I learned American history, all combined in one. I also went to elementary school at night, and I got an elementary school diploma. Then I went to high school, and I got a high school equivalency diploma. I did it a lot to, first of all, I took after that a little college courses here, some technology courses, but mainly I did it to learn the American way, to learn to dive into how people think over here and so on. And that was the way I chose to do it.
Did you become a U.S. citizen? How did you do it?
Of course. At first, my brother has sponsored me, so I got what they call green cards. And it was tricky at the time because the Vietnam War was going on, so I could have been drafted to the war, and I just came out of a war. It was kind of tricky, but so I wasn't. I actually had to sign papers for selective services. They call it selective service, and I wasn't called. And later on, when I got married with your grandmother, at that point, when you get married, you can become a full citizen. I think after 3 years or whatever. By then I was here, I think 3 years at least. And it was easy from that point on.
What? Is it recording? Okay. Since you came to the U.S., have you traveled at all, or have you stayed in one place?
Okay. as I told you before, I was going to travel throughout the country. Uh, that didn't happen then. It's happening now a little bit, but I made my place in Brooklyn because my brother was in Brooklyn. So, and Marilyn was also a Brooklyn girl. So we got married and we stayed in Brooklyn for a while. We had an apartment and then we bought a house in Brooklyn. And then I was working for this man in telecommunication and he sent me to do a job in this area. And I remember a house with a long driveway. It was a foggy morning and it was beautiful. And I looked at it and I said, I would like to live here one day. I'm going to try to do that. And it happened. I was lucky I was able to do it. So that's how we ended up moving into this area. I think the house was in White Plain or New Rochelle, which is, in the area too. So, yeah, we came in, we're living in this house maybe like 40 years already or more, just stayed put over here. As far as traveling, we travel to different places in the United States. Been to most states at this point. Still have few to do, but hopefully we'll cover some this summer. We'll see. So I made my place in Brooklyn because my brother was there. Marilyn and I got married, your grandmother, and we had several apartments, different places. As kids were born, we needed more room. So when we had 3 kids, we decided, okay, so I was working for this man. I was working for this man in telecommunication, and he sent me to do a job in the area. I think it was White Plain or Rochelle. And I remember a long driveway when it was a beautiful foggy morning and a lot of trees. And I said, I would like to live here one day. It's beautiful. And it so happened that a few years later, I was able to buy a house in Scarsdale. And we've been here since. Gilly, your Uncle Gilly, was born in Scarsdale. Only Sass was 6 months old when he came in. Your mama was what? 5? So basically lived all her life here, kind of, It was nice. We had good memories, I think, in this place. You have memories from this place as well. Look at that. The house.
What made you choose to move to Scarsdale, not White Plains or Rochelle or something?
Oh, very interesting. I had a friend who was also a customer. And one day he calls me and says, I would like you to come to my house to see I have a new house and I want some telephones in the house. And his house happened to be in Scarsdale. So I came in for Shabbat to his home. We spent the Shabbat here and we saw the community and I fell in love with it. And he told me that they're trying to start a Sephardic community over here. And Monday I started looking for a place here. Literally Monday, it's like the same week. It took a while to find because I needed to be near the young Israel and the whole thing. And at that point eventually we started. We were founders of the Magen David Synagogue on Weaver Street. We started it up, him and a few other people, of course me too. And that was, I guess, played a role why I am in Scarsdale and not White Plain, let's say.
Thanks for taking the time to do this interview.
You're welcome.